When a woman says, "It's nothing," most men relax. They take it at face value. They move on. And that's exactly where things start going wrong. Because when a woman says, "It's nothing," she's almost never talking about nothing. She's talking about something she doesn't feel safe, ready, or willing to explain yet. And if you miss what's really happening in that moment, you don't just miss information. You lose emotional ground. Not immediately, quietly. So, stay with me till the end, because once you understand what "it's nothing" actually means, you'll stop making the silent mistakes that slowly drain attraction. Subscribe and comment, ready, because what comes next explains how men unknowingly fail these moments without realizing it. Why women say, "It's nothing." Women don't say "it's nothing" to lie. They say it to manage emotion. In that moment, something is happening internally, a feeling, a reaction, a thought. But explaining it feels risky. So instead of opening it up, she closes it down. Not to punish you, not to manipulate you, but to protect herself from emotional discomfort. This phrase is less about content and more about emotional safety. When she says, "It's nothing," she's really saying, "I don't want to deal with this emotionally right now." And how you respond to that tells her everything about you. What most men hear relief. Okay, good. Crisis avoided. They drop the moment. They change the topic. They act like nothing happened. But emotionally, that tells her something dangerous. It tells her that you either didn't notice the shift or noticed it and chose to ignore it. Both feel the same to her nervous system. Disconnected. Sign 1. Her tone changed before the words did. Before "it's nothing" ever comes out, something else happens first. Her tone shifts. Her energy pulls back slightly. Her responses shorten. Nothing dramatic. Nothing obvious, but different. When you ask what's wrong and she says, "It's nothing," she's already tested something. She's tested whether you notice the emotional change before you notice the words. If you miss the tone, she files that away quietly. Sign 2. She expects you to read the moment, not the sentence. Women communicate emotionally first, verbally second. When she says, "It's nothing," she's not ending the conversation. She's observing how you respond to emotional ambiguity. Do you stay present, or do you retreat? Do you stay calm, or do you become uncomfortable? Most men either push too hard or pull away completely. Both fail. Sign 3. This is a micro test of emotional leadership. This moment isn't about the issue itself. It's about how you handle uncertainty. When you react with anxiety, she feels pressure. When you react with avoidance, she feels unseen. But when you remain calm, steady, and attentive, without forcing her to open up, her nervous system relaxes. That relaxation is what creates trust. And trust is the foundation of attraction. Notice something critical here. She is not asking you to fix anything. She is not asking you to interrogate her. She is not asking you to walk away. She is watching whether you can hold emotional space without trying to control it. Most men don't even realize this moment mattered, but to her, it did. Why this moment is so easy to mess up. Men are taught to solve problems, so when something feels off, they either try to fix it immediately or ignore it to keep things smooth, but emotional leadership is not fixing, and it's not avoidance, it's presence. When you miss this, she doesn't confront you, she adjusts. She shares a little less next time. She holds back slightly more. She keeps things to herself, not consciously, instinctively. What this moment really decides. This moment decides one thing. Does she feel emotionally met or emotionally alone? If she feels met, attachment deepens. If she feels alone, distance grows, quietly. And by the time most men sense something has changed, it's already been happening for a while. Now comes the part most men never understand, because there are very specific mistakes men make right after hearing, "It's nothing." Mistakes that feel logical, but actually push her further away. And there is one response that does the opposite, without pressure, without chasing, without games. That's what we break down next. The most common mistakes men make right after. The moment she says, "It's nothing," most men react automatically, not thoughtfully, not calmly, automatically, and that's where things quietly break. The first mistake is pushing for answers. Men ask again. They probe. They insist. What do you mean? Just tell me. Why are you upset? It feels caring. It feels responsible. But emotionally, it creates pressure. She already chose not to open up. Pushing tells her she's not allowed to regulate her emotions in her own time. Her nervous system tightens. Why? Pressure feels unsafe to her. When you push for clarity, she doesn't feel heard. She feels cornered. Even if your tone is calm, the intention feels urgent. And urgency communicates emotional need. The female mind reads this as instability, not because you're wrong, but because you're forcing resolution instead of offering presence. And presence is what she was testing for. The second mistake, pretending nothing happened. Some men go the opposite direction. They drop the topic completely. They change the subject. They act cheerful. On the surface, this looks respectful, but emotionally, it feels like avoidance. She senses that the moment was uncomfortable for you, so you escaped it. That tells her something important. It tells her that when emotions get complex, you disappear emotionally, even if you stay physically present. That doesn't build trust. It weakens it. Why avoidance damages attraction? Avoidance signals one thing: you can't handle emotional uncertainty. Women don't need men to solve feelings. They need men who can sit inside them without flinching. When you avoid the moment, she feels alone with her emotions. And emotional loneliness is where attraction starts to erode. The third mistake, turning it into your problem. Another common response is self-blame. Men assume they caused the issue. They apologize preemptively. They over-explain their intentions. I didn't mean anything by it. I hope I didn't upset you. I'm sorry if I did something. Even when nothing concrete happened, this shifts the emotional frame. Instead of calm presence, you offer emotional submission, and submission does not create safety. It creates imbalance. What she is actually watching here, she is not watching your words. She is watching your emotional pace, your comfort with silence, your ability to stay steady. When uncertainty enters the space, do you rush to fix it, or do you remain grounded? That answer matters more than the issue itself. The response that quietly builds attraction, the response that works, is simple, but difficult for most men. You acknowledge the moment without forcing it. Your energy stays calm. Your presence stays open. You don't interrogate. You don't withdraw. You don't collapse. You allow space without leaving it empty. That balance tells her she's safe to open up, now or later. And safety is what turns emotional hesitation into connection. Why this response feels so different to her. Most men respond with action. Few respond with steadiness. When you don't react impulsively, her nervous system relaxes. She feels seen without being exposed. That's rare, and rarity creates emotional gravity. What happens internally when you get this right? Something subtle shifts. She stops guarding the emotion, not immediately, but gradually. She senses that you're not trying to control the outcome, and when control disappears, openness becomes possible. This is how emotional trust forms, quietly, over time. Why men misread this phase? Men expect results fast. They want confirmation. They want clarity. They want resolution. But emotional connection doesn't respond to speed. It responds to consistency. This phase isn't about fixing the moment. It's about how you hold yourself during it. The consequence of failing this moment. When men fail here, women don't explode. They adapt. They stop bringing things up. They share less. They keep more inside. And men often mistake that for peace. But it's distance. Now comes the most misunderstood part, because there's a specific way to respond that deepens trust, and a very similar response that quietly kills attraction. Most men confuse the two. That's what we break down next. The response that changes everything. At this stage, the difference between losing emotional ground and deepening connection is small, almost invisible. It's not about saying the perfect sentence. It's about how you hold the moment. When she says, "It's nothing," the moment becomes emotionally unstable, not broken, unstable. And instability is where leadership is either felt or missed. Why words matter less than energy. Most men focus on what to say, but the female mind reads state, not script. She feels your calm or tension, your comfort or discomfort, your steadiness or urgency. If your energy tightens, she senses it. If your presence remains relaxed, she feels safe. That's why two men can say similar words and create completely different emotional outcomes. The response that works. The response that works has three qualities. First, it acknowledges the moment. Second, it removes pressure. Third, it keeps emotional presence intact. You don't demand explanation. You don't pretend nothing happened. You don't turn it into a problem to solve. Your tone stays level. Your body language stays open. Your pace stays slow. That combination tells her something powerful. I noticed. I'm not threatened. I'm still here. That message is felt immediately. Why this calms her nervous system. When a woman feels emotional tension, her nervous system looks for signals. Is it safe to open up? Or is it safer to shut down? Your response answers that question. Pressure tells her opening up will be uncomfortable. Avoidance tells her opening up won't be met. But calm presence tells her she can choose her timing. Choice creates safety, and safety is what allows emotions to surface naturally. What most men do instead. Most men rush. They rush to clarify. They rush to reassure. They rush to remove discomfort. Even silence can be rushed when it's tense, but rushing communicates fear of the moment, and fear is contagious. The subtle shift she feels when you get it right. When you respond correctly, she doesn't suddenly open up. Instead, something quieter happens. Her body relaxes. Her resistance softens. Her emotional guard lowers slightly, not because you forced anything, but because nothing was forced. She now associates emotional uncertainty with calm connection, not pressure. That association matters more than the issue itself. Why this builds attraction, not just comfort. Many men think comfort kills attraction. It doesn't. Predictability kills attraction. Neediness kills attraction. Calm presence creates trust and tension because you are steady, but not dependent. You don't chase emotion, you allow it. That restraint creates emotional gravity. The line men cross without realizing it. There's a thin line here. Men think they're being supportive, but they're actually seeking reassurance for themselves. They want to know things are okay so they can relax. Women feel that immediately. The moment your response is about calming your anxiety, the moment stops being about her, and that flips the dynamic. Why holding space is a masculine skill. Holding space doesn't mean being passive. It means you are emotionally strong enough to sit with uncertainty. You don't need answers right now. You don't need resolution on demand. You don't need to control the outcome. That self-trust is rare, and rarity is attractive. The consequence of doing this consistently. When you handle moments like this consistently, something changes over time. She starts opening up sooner. She brings things to you instead of away from you. She trusts that her emotions won't overwhelm the connection. This isn't because you're perfect. It's because you're stable, and stability creates emotional safety. Why men undervalue this moment? Men look for big turning points, arguments, confessions, decisions. But relationships are shaped by micro moments like this. Moments where something could go wrong, but doesn't. Those moments quietly define how safe a woman feels with you. The real decision happening here. When she says, "It's nothing," she isn't deciding whether to argue. She's deciding whether to keep letting you close. That decision happens internally, and it's influenced by how you show up in uncertainty. Now we move into the final layer, because even when men respond correctly once, they often ruin everything later without realizing it. There are specific mistakes men make after handling this moment well, mistakes that undo trust and slowly kill attraction. And there's a way to resolve this dynamic that strengthens connection instead of draining it. That's what we break down next. The psychology behind "it's nothing." When a woman says "it's nothing," her nervous system is regulating. She's holding an emotion that hasn't settled yet. Attraction doesn't die in these moments. It changes direction. If she feels pressure, attraction contracts. If she feels avoidance, attraction disconnects. If she feels calm presence, attraction reorganizes around safety. The female mind doesn't need immediate clarity. It needs to know you won't panic when clarity isn't available. That's why this phrase matters so much. It's not about the issue. It's about whether your emotional center stays intact when uncertainty enters the space. What you do right now, when "it's nothing" appears, slow yourself down first. Your tone stays even. Your body stays open. Your attention stays present. You acknowledge without pushing. You don't interrogate. You don't disappear. You allow the moment to exist without trying to end it. You continue the interaction naturally. You don't force closeness. You don't create distance. If she opens up later, you receive it calmly. If she doesn't, you don't chase the explanation. Your steadiness becomes the container. That container is what makes emotional honesty feel possible. The most common mistakes after you handle it well. Many men get this moment right, then ruin it afterward. The first mistake is revisiting it too soon. They bring it up again. They ask if she's okay now. They try to close the loop. That reintroduces pressure. The second mistake is changing behavior. They become extra attentive, extra cautious, extra careful. That signals insecurity. The third mistake is self-congratulation. They assume trust is secured. They relax emotionally. They stop holding presence. Attraction needs consistency, not victory laps. Why follow-up pressure backfires? When you circle back too quickly, she feels managed. Instead of emotional safety, she feels expectation. Expectation turns vulnerability into obligation, and obligation kills openness. Women open when they feel free, not when they feel required. How to maintain emotional advantage. You maintain advantage by staying the same man, not colder, not warmer, consistent. You keep your life moving. You keep your emotional tone steady. You let connection deepen at its own pace. You don't monitor her moods. You don't track her openness. You trust the process because you trust yourself. That self-trust is what she feels. What resolution actually looks like. Resolution doesn't come from answers. It comes from comfort. Over time, she begins to open sooner. She shares more naturally. She feels less guarded, not because you demanded it, but because nothing bad happened when she didn't. That's resolution. The issue dissolves because the environment became safe. Why this builds attraction instead of just comfort. Comfort alone doesn't create attraction, but comfort paired with emotional strength does. You're not absorbing her emotions. You're not avoiding them. You're steady in their presence. That steadiness creates polarity, and polarity keeps attraction alive. The quiet shift that happens over time, handled consistently, moments like this stack. She begins to associate you with emotional ease. She feels regulated around you. She trusts the connection without questioning it. This doesn't happen overnight. It happens through repetition, through moments where nothing went wrong, because you didn't make it go wrong. The real lesson most men miss. The lesson is not what to say. It's who to be when nothing is explained. Men lose attraction when they react to uncertainty. They keep attraction when they remain centered inside it. That difference defines everything. Final word. It's nothing is not a wall. It's a doorway. Most men either try to kick it open or walk away from it. The man who stays present without forcing becomes the one she eventually lets in. If this helped you see these moments differently, let me know in the comments. Subscribe if you want calm, honest psychology that helps you lead emotionally without games. And before you go, watch the next video on your screen. It explains what happens after trust starts forming and how men unknowingly damage it. This channel isn't about chasing answers. It's about becoming steady enough that answers come to you.